is no places. So, as I said, I will answer 3 questions about Scrum that I usually asked when doing Agile and Scrum transformations, and I will also describe you a way forward in your Scrum and Agile education. So, what else you can learn to improve your knowledge in Scrum and Agile. And we'll start with about Agile. So, what is Agile? Actually, Agile is about mindset. So, Agile is mindset, but mindset is very difficult to deal with because it is an abstract concept. So we need somehow to observe mindset. And in Agile, mindset is established and can be observed through 4 values. Probably you know, all of you know these 4 values of Agile. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. It is 4 Agile values, and it is how Agile mindset represents itself. And please also note that in Agile, it is following a plan is more important than responding to change is more important than following a plan. But following a plan is also important. So that is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more, but we still value the values on the right as well. So it is about Agile values and it is about Agile mindset. What else is Agile? Agile is 12 principles. So values represents itself through 12 principles. Like our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. It is Agile mindset. And you can read it. There is lots of information on it, on its history and how it was created. And probably if you're practicing Agile or Scrum for some time already, you know all of it. So Agile mindset represents itself through 4 values and through 12 principles. And also it is manifested through different practices that are based on values and on principles. There are lots of practices in Agile, such as story slicing, 10 minutes build, refactoring, pair programming, sustainable pace, software metrics, so lots of practices. So 4 values, 12 principles, and different practices. It is what is Agile. So Agile is 4 values, 12 principles, and lots of practices. So what is Scrum and how it relates to Agile? Scrum is a set of these principles, or is the set of these practices that are coming from Agile. And also there are lots of other frameworks and methodologies that are Agile, that are using Agile practices, but are not Scrum, like extreme programming. Or, for instance, you can have your own Agile process using Agile practices, you see, but it will not be Scrum. So, answering the question, can a team be Agile but don't practice Scrum? Yes, the team can be Agile and use some other Agile framework or some other set of Agile principles, of Agile practices, like in this way, your own Agile process. So you can have your own customized Agile process and you can use it and be Agile team. But if a team is using Scrum framework, it is automatically becomes Agile team. So Agile is bigger than Scrum. So if you're using Scrum, you're Agile. If you're Agile and you don't use Scrum, probably you use some other Agile framework or Agile set of principles. Some questions are going, and I'm some people are saying that there is no changes in picture, okay? Sorry, I forgot to start showing my screen. Then I need to repeat everything. Okay, excuse me. So what I was talking about, that Agile is about mindset, and mindset established itself through 4 values. You know all these values, I think. It is very wide known. Also, these values established on 12 principles. So first Agile mindset, then values, and then 12 principles. 12 principles, it is Agile manifesto. Then Agile 12 principles manifested itself through different Agile practices. Lots of them. There are lots of them, like short iterations, story slicing, user stories, prioritized backlog techniques. People saying that it is better now. Yes, definitely it's better when you see the picture, not only my voice, sorry. I was worrying a bit about these people who were not able to join our webinar. Well, so, and Scrum, as I already said, is just a set of practices, Agile practices, like combined in one box and called Scrum framework. So the team can be Scrum, and it means that the team is Agile. And if the team is Agile but don't practice Scrum, that is also fine. You're probably using some customized Agile process, like extreme programming. Maybe you're using Kanban, maybe you're using some Lean techniques, maybe using Scrumban. So it is fine to use some customized Agile process and not be Scrum team. So next we're going to talk about Scrum. I think, and I hope that it is now clear. So what is Agile? Agile is values, Agile is principles, Agile is practices, and Scrum is just a set of Agile practices. And Scrum has its own structure. It is very important in Scrum to have a transparency, and Scrum provides us instruments to have this transparency. So in Scrum it is clear what roles we have on the projects, what you should do on the project, in what time, so what are our activities, and what is our schedule. It gives us possibility to inspect our process, for instance, like we do it during retrospective in Scrum, and to adapt the process, as we do it, for instance, during daily stand-up, where we are inspecting our progress, comparing to the previous day, and then adapting our deliverables. For instance, we can do some in-scoping or de-scoping, depending on our pace. And this can be decided on daily stand-up. In Scrum, there is a very important principle, empiricism. It means that we first do something, then see the results, and then make this adaptation of the process. So we base our knowledge on the experience that we already had. If we tried some new planning technique, for instance, affinity estimation, we saw how it worked for us, and we can then do some adoption. Probably we are not going to use this technique anymore and switch to planning POC, or vice versa. Affinity estimation was better for us than planning POC. We are building in Scrum the product, and it is our goal. And again, in Scrum we have events, roles, and artifacts. And we will go deeper into these 3 items during our session. There is also very important qualities and very important values of Scrum, and it is courage, respect, focus, openness, and commitment. It is something that we value as a Scrum team. But all this framework, once again, all this framework is based itself on 12 principles of Agile and on 4 values. So if you are not able to find some answers within Scrum framework, you're going back to 12 principles and trying to find the answers here. If not, you're going even wider, you're going to 4 values and trying to see whether what you are doing is still in Agile. Because again, you cannot be Scrum without being Agile. You cannot be Scrum without being Agile. Yes. So, and it is Scrum framework. Transparency is important, ability to inspect, to adapt, to build product, and to follow these values of Scrum. So we are going now into details of Scrum events, roles, and artifacts. Here is the Scrum Components. There are 3 Scrum artifacts, like Product Backlog, Sprint Backlog, and Increment. There are also 3 roles, Product Owner, Scrum Master, and Development Team. And there are a number of events. Scrum roles. Product Owner, Development Team, and Scrum Master. What you see now is Scrum Team. Please make sure you are not using Scrum Team instead of Development Team, because Development Team is a part of Scrum Team, as well as Product Owner and Scrum Master. So the main responsibility of Product Owner is to work with Product Backlog. It's a document where all requirements are written of the project. Product Owner is investigating this Product Backlog during his or her work and trying to understand what value this or that requirement, this or that bug fix is providing to the product. Product Owner is also ordering Product Backlog items. And that is why Product Owner is one person, not a committee, not 3 or 5 or 2 people, because prioritization should be done by one person, and only this one person knows which item of product backlog, which user story, which defect is more important than another one. When we have more than one product owner, they can start competing with one another, saying that his or her requirements are more important than the other person. So make sure you have one product owner. You can have several proxy product owners on Scrum. For instance, business analysts. There can be several people, but these proxy product owners or business analysts should contact to one product owner in order to find out about the priority of product backlog item, about the priority of some requirement, some user story, some defect. Product owner also should work on a regular basis with development team to make sure that development team understands the requirements. And product owner should track the amount of work done during the current sprint and left to do for the next sprints. And this observation should be also provided to development team. So development team knows the progress, not only within a sprint, but also within a release or within a half a year. And this presentation of the results can be done during sprint review. So what you should remember is that the product owner is a role in Scrum team, and this person is working with product backlog, with product requirements, and doing prioritization of the product backlog, and knows the value of each requirement for the product. Product owner should be able to answer your question, why you are asking us to do this, why you're asking us to implement this requirement, what is the value of it for the product, for our business users. Because product owner is a person who is investigating the market, who is talking to business users on a regular basis, so he knows why this product is developed in such a way, and you can ask him questions. Development team. Development team has 2 qualities. It is cross-functional and self-organizing. There is lots of questions about cross-functionality. That, for instance, it is said that some people can say that every person in development team should be able to do, for instance, business analysis, should do testing, should do development, and actually it is not true. By the way, development team includes in itself QA engineers, UI engineers, backend people. Development team is all the team who is working, who is providing the shippable increment, who is providing the software by their hands. So it is the development team. There is no other title in the development team other than developer. And about cross-functionality, that the team should be cross-functional, not the person. So if you have enough skills within your team, if you have enough quality assurance engineers, if you have enough UI engineers, backend engineers, then that is fine. That there is no necessity for backend engineer to do UI or UI engineer to do testing. the team should be cross-functional. But if you're missing some skills in your team, then probably some people to switch to some other activities. So cross-functionality is applied to the team, not to the person itself. And it is self-organizing, definitely. If the team sees that they need some expertise added to the team, for instance, database engineer should be added to the team, they should escalate this issue to the manager, they should do something with it. Probably some of the backend engineers should go to do some training on database knowledge and bring this expertise into the team in order to be cross-functional. There is no sub-teams in development team. Development team owns sprint backlog, so product owner owns product backlog, and development team owns sprint backlog. Sprint backlog is a part of requirements that is assigned for particular iteration to implement. Development team is nearly 7 people, and it tracks the total work remaining every day during daily stand-up, and it is delivers shippable increment every sprint or every iteration. Sprint, it is iteration. It is called sprint in the Scrum. There is also Scrum Master role within Scrum team, and Scrum Master facilitates meetings. There are different Scrum meetings, and Scrum Master is doing facilitating. And also Scrum Master resolve impediments. So if there is some problems in the team, a team member from development team can come to Scrum Master and say, hey, we have this problem. For instance, we're migrating to dot machines. Could you please gather some knowledge about this migration, write instruction to us, and spread it among all the team. And then everybody in the team can then do this migration more quicker. But please make sure that your Scrum Master doesn't have any other activities. I mean, in our cases, sometimes Scrum Master is also quality assurance engineer, or Scrum Master is also a developer, or Scrum Master is also a project manager. So it is good to have a full-time Scrum Master on the team. But if he or she is not, then please help him also with some activities, because one person can do Scrum Mastering effectively for 2 or 3 teams if he or she needs to do also some testing or some bug fixing. Also, product owner can come to Scrum Master. Since Scrum Master understands and practices agility, product owner can come to Scrum Master and say, I have problems with requirements writing. I don't know how to write requirements as user stories. Can you help me, please? And Scrum Master should coach product owner about the format of the requirements. So product owner knows the value of the requirements, knows the value of the product. But product owner can have some gaps in understanding the Scrum as well as development team. And Scrum Master should do coaching both of development team and product owner about Scrum. And if Scrum Master does not have some answers, Scrum Master should go to Agile Coach, and then lots of to have Agile practice and have Agile coaches, and ask a coach probably to come to a team to make some workshop or to make some or to answer some questions about Scrum. But Scrum Master should escalate this issue. We are going to Scrum Events. What you see here is actually Scrum Pulse. Scrum Pulse is a schedule of Scrum events within a sprint. Here you can see plannings, PBRs. It is product backlog refinement sessions or product backlog grooming sessions. It is also stand-ups, and it is also review and retro. In Scrum Guide, there is no such event as product backlog refinement. Scrum Guide, it is a Scrum textbook, a Scrum Bible. It tells us that we as a Scrum team should gather together from time to time and to keep our requirements up to date, to keep our requirements investigated and cleared up. And for this, we can have these meetings. But Scrum is not telling us when to have it, how to have it. So Scrum is telling us just that our product backlog should be refined. And we will start with the first Scrum meeting, and it is planning. Planning is done by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. So all Scrum team, and you remember that Scrum team is product owner, development team, and Scrum Master. So all Scrum team should present on planning. Planning usually takes 8 hours for 1 month sprint. It can take less, but not more. And during the planning, we answer 2 questions. What can be delivered by the end of the sprint? What can be included in the increment? And the second question, how we will need to organize our work to deliver this increment. Who will do what dependencies we will have, what integrations we will need to do, what inputs from probably some other teams we will need to get. So how the work should be organized in order to deliver the increment. It is done during planning. Planning starts right after the retrospective of the previous sprint. There is no gaps here, so planning is the first event of the Scrum. Also, during sprint, as I already said, we can have product backlog refinement sessions, PBRs. These product backlog refinement sessions are done for the next sprint requirements refining. So for planning, you should already have all requirements in place, and on planning you can do estimation of requirements and creation of sprint backlog from the product backlog. But during product backlog refinement sessions, you refine the requirements for the next sprints. Some questions are going. You have not mentioned about team lead role. Could you talk a bit about this role? Unfortunately, there is no such role in Scrum like team lead or project manager. You can have it in Scrum like project manager. Actually, project manager in Scrum is responsible for communicating with other teams. So if Scrum team need to communicate with some other teams, project manager can take over this responsibility. But there is no such role as technical lead in development team. It means that every member of development team has the same rights, the same voice, the same responsibilities as the most skillful, probably person who is, in our case, is usually a technical lead. So there is no such role. But if you would like to have it, you can have it, but make sure that you are not violating agile principles, agile values. Maybe under team, one more question. Maybe under team lead, Scrum Master is mentioned. No, Scrum Master is a servant leader, is an assistant for a team. Scrum Master cannot be the most skillful person in the team. Scrum Master probably can have more knowledge in quality assurance than in development. So Scrum Master is also, it can be a team lead, but it is not obvious. The Scrum Master is always a team lead is always a Scrum Master. So if you would like to add any roles into Scrum, like technical lead, like project manager, or if you would like to add any practices into Scrum, any new events into Scrum, make sure that these events and these roles doesn't violate agile principles and agile values. If you're adding something to the Scrum and it is not violating principles and values, then that is fine. You are still practicing Scrum. But if you start violating it, probably you are doing something else, not Scrum. So we are going further with events. I would like to go back once again to Scrum Components. So that is all that Scrum has. So there is nothing else in Scrum. If you're adding something into Scrum, then that is fine. But this is the must that you should have in your Scrum. These 3 artifacts, 3 roles, and this set of events. So we were talking about planning and going to main PBR. So during PBRs, and here we have main and local PBRs. Some team can have such sessions like main and local PBR. During main PBR, you can have a requirements refining session with your product owner, and during local PBRs, you can have requirements refining sessions with your business analysts. So one per sprint, you can meet your product owner, have a high-level understanding of requirements, and then if your business analysts are capable, to provide you details of requirements, then you can have only local PBRs. But certainly it is good when product owner, the main product owner, not proxy product owner, not business analysts, are able to present on all PBRs. But in reality, our product owners from, for instance, Deutsche Bank are quite busy, so they can only spend with us one per sprint during one event, like main PBRs spend their time on ours, and then our business analysts start working with the team during local PBRs. During PBR, we are adding some details to user stories. We can do estimation. Estimation can be done both on planning and on PBR. Also, PBR sometimes called like pre-planning sessions, pre-planning. And also, we can do ordering of product backlog items. But when you do ordering of product backlog items, again, make sure that product owner is aware of this ordering. During PBRs, Scrum team decides how and when a requirement is done, so when to do it. Usually PBR doesn't consume more than 10% capacity of development team. For instance, you have for your development team, you calculated the available hours of development team, and it is 100 hours per sprint. So your requirement of backlog sessions should not take more than 10 hours out of these 100 available hours. Capacity is available hours of your development team for the next sprint. So it is about PBRs, and during PBRs we are making preparations for the next sprint, not the current sprint. Because when we came to planning, we have all our requirements refined with the help of these local and main PBRs. Also, every day we have standards. Every day, for instance, on morning or on evening or at daytime, it doesn't matter when you do this Syncup. Scrum doesn't tell you when to do it. Scrum is just telling you that every day you should synchronize your activity within your team. It usually takes no more than 15 minutes. It is held at the same time and place every day to reduce the complexity, so people know where every day they should go, to what room, to what place of the room, to what time. And usually it consists of 3 questions. What you have done already, what you're going to do, and what is blocking you. What impediments do you have? And Scrum Master should then write down these impediments and resolve it during the day. What sometimes is missing during daily stand-up is people are asking and answering these 3 magic questions, but then can do nothing. What I mean, if some person is telling, okay, I'm doing this task, I was doing this task, and I'm continue to do this task, and no one is asking him, maybe you have some problems with this task, because it was estimated for 1 day to do, and you're doing it for the 2 days already. Maybe you need some assistance, maybe you need some help. So during this Syncup, you should also inspect the progress toward the sprint goal, inspect the progress, how you're going to deliver your scope by the end of the sprint. And if you have any problems during the Syncup, this problem should be addressed by someone, probably by Scrum Master or by the development team who's presenting on daily Scrum. Also, the research event in a Scrum, a sprint. Sprint is a container for all other events. All events are encompassed in sprint. In Scrum, the sprint length, the iteration length, should be no more than 1 month, because we can't predict like our future more than 1 month in details. We can predict what we will do for 1 month because we see our requirements detailized in such a way that only to cover 1 month, no more. We can have some high-level plans, some release plans, and it is good when you have it, but detailed requirements, cleared requirements, we can have only for 1 month, no more. But we can have less iteration length than 1 month. For instance, we would like to increase our delivery pace, to deliver something more often, and we can have then 2 weeks sprint or even 1 week sprint. Sprint length can be changed, but you should change the length of the sprint before you start your sprint, not in the middle when you see that you're delaying some of your deliverables, and you would like to prolong the sprint. It is incorrect. On planning, when you do all estimations, when you create your sprint backlog, you see already what time it is necessary, and you define the sprint lengths. It is good to have the stable sprint lengths. It is then more easier for team to make forecasting, to make some predictions about the deliverables. But it is fine if you're playing with your sprint lengths. I worked with a team, with one team that were changing the sprint lengths for nearly a year, trying to find their ideal sprint lengths. They tried 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then 2 weeks again, then 3 weeks, and then decided to have 2-week sprints at the end. But again, it is negotiable. A sprint has a goal, so some main functionality, for instance, reporting functionality to deliver, or some huge bulk of functionality that should be delivered within one sprint. So you should have some goal, and new sprints start immediately after the previous one. So one sprint is done, and then a new planning is started, and a new sprint begins. There is no any buffer between sprints. So we are coming to the last events of the sprint, and it is review. Some teams call it demo. It is a session where the team demonstrates the work done to the product owner. So the team is gathering all together. Some teams have pre-demo sessions where they have a rehearsal of their review, where they are showing, presenting the functionality they do to one another, and then they're presenting this functionality on review session to product owner. So if the team are not very mature, that have these pre-review sessions, pre-demo sessions to one another or to their business analysts, and only after this they're showing this functionality to product owner. Some question. Why do we have local PBR every week? Okay, good question. So, for instance, we are going back to PBRs. During PBRs, we are refining requirements. For instance, during main PBR, a product owner explained some requirements, some user story to the team. Then, during the local PBR, the business analyst provided a bit more details to the team, and the team started asking questions at product owner. So, could you please provide some mock-up for this user story, or how this calculation will be done? We are not sure that it is correct. And product owner and proxy product owner that is presented on local PBR, business analyst who is presented, need to go to product owner and to ask these questions to him, or need to do some investigation about the requirement. Probably there is some mistakes in the requirement, and there is no time on local PBR to do this because all the team is sitting and 10 people are waiting till the product owner will do it. So product owner can do this investigation between several PBRs, between first and second, or second and third. So it is time to make some preparation, and actually the development team can also be prepared for local PBR. On one local PBR, the development team can see the requirements, then make some distribution of requirements, and make technical investigation of the requirements between PBR. For instance, some persons say, okay, I will take this requirement and look into the code in order to be more prepared for the next PBR, to ask probably more questions to the proxy product owner, to our business analyst, or to provide or to share my understanding of this requirement with my team members. So this time can be used for technical investigation, for business requirements investigation of business analyst. So about review, as I already said, it is a demo session where the results of the sprint are shown to product owner, and product owner are saying whether this user story requirement is done or not done. The product owner is basing his or her answers on definition of done document. In definition of done document, we are defining what is meant by user story done. Maybe some documentation is written, maybe unit test is written, maybe some other artifacts are present in the user story. It means the user story is done. The definition of done document is shared between all Scrum team members. So product owner knows definition of done, and all team members know definition of done. After the review, you should, as a team, be clear about what requirements, what user stories were accepted by product owner, and what requirements were rejected by product owner, and why it was rejected, and exactly what was not done correctly in this requirement. It can be written in review minutes afterwards, what was accepted and what was rejected. If the user story is rejected, it comes back to again to product backlog, and then during planning it is re-estimated once again and taken into the new sprint. So after review, there is no development activity. What was accepted, what was rejected is going back to the product backlog. We are not working overtimes or during weekend or after or even during Friday to do something after the review. After the review, we can have only one event. It is retrospective. We're retrospect about how we completed the sprint. What we do good during the sprint, what we would like to continue to do during the sprint, and what we not do good, quite good during the sprint, what we need to improve. We write these improvements into some backlog, I mean like improvements backlog, like list of our improvements. And then during the next sprint, we are fulfilling, we are improving our situation. We are doing our improvements that we have investigated during retrospective. So retrospective, it is the event to investigate how we proceeded during the sprint. And after retrospective, the next event can start with planning, and where we can start one more sprint. But usually people have retrospective at the evening, and they go home afterwards, and on next day they have planning. There is no particular dates in Scrum when you must start planning. For instance, you can have your planning not only on Monday, but on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and even on Friday. So it is up for you to decide when you have your planning, your PBR, your stand-up, your review, and retrospective. Just make sure that all Scrum team members, development team, Scrum Master, and Product Owner are aware when you are going to have this or that event. And we are going, so we discussed Scrum roles, we discussed Scrum events, and we are going to Scrum artifacts. So we have 3 Scrum artifacts, like 3 roles and 3 artifacts. Product backlog. Product backlog, it is a list of requirements for the product. It contains all the requirements of the product. It is dynamic and it is never completed. The product is evolving, the market situation is changing, that is why you need more requirements to come into your product backlog, and product owner is tracking this situation and adding more and more requirements to product backlog. Product backlog is investigated and is reviewed and is changed by product owner, and the team also works with product backlog during PBR sessions. So on product backlog refinement sessions, you have product backlog. And during planning, you form your sprint backlog. So sprint backlog, it is a part of product backlog that is planned for a particular iteration, for a sprint. So on planning, you create your sprint backlog. It means that you have all the requirements understandable to you in order to make this planning. So in sprint backlog, there are items that are absolutely clear for development team, because it is the development team who owns sprint backlog. Product backlog is owned by product owner, and sprint backlog is owned by development team. And development team knows exactly what is in sprint backlog. And development team, if they don't understand the story that is coming to sprint backlog, they should have the opportunity to reject it, or to ask a product owner to provide more details on it, or maybe to ask a product owner to provide more details and have this story for the next sprint backlog, not for the current one. Sprint backlog, it being developed during the sprint, and at the end of the sprint, out of sprint backlog, we have potentially shippable increment. What it is meant? It is meant that we have some product to show to the product owner, and if the product owner asked us to deploy this product to production, we will be able to deploy it to production. It means that this product is working. It can have some bugs, but in general, it provides the functionality that was described in Sprint Backlog, and now it is being created by the development team. So first we have product backlog, and it is product owner responsibility to change it. Then from the product backlog, we have sprint product backlog, and it is done during the planning session by the development team. And then development team during the sprint works hard to create the increment. At the end of the sprint, we have this increment. We show this increment during review session, and on retrospective, we all together, with product owner, Scrum Master, and development team, discuss how the work was done during the sprint. A question? Returning to the previous slides, should sprint duration be static, or it can be changed dynamically from time to time? Again, you can change your sprint length, but at the beginning of the sprint. You should be able to do forecasting and should be able to do estimation for the sprint. When you start changing the sprint length at the middle of the sprint, it means that you are inaccurate in your estimations. It means that Scrum shows you have a problem, guys. You are providing inaccurate estimations. Probably that is why you need to prolong your sprint. It is not a good process to do in such a way. So you define your sprint length at the beginning. You can have, for instance, this sprint you can have 2 weeks, and for the next sprint you can have 3 weeks, but you define it at the beginning, and you finish your sprint at the time box that you defined at the beginning. It makes you more disciplined in such a way. Because if you can delay every time, it means then you can like make failures every time. You can fail every time and not to provide the deliverables that you were committed for. And this situation will never change. First you would like to prolong for 1 week, then for another week, and then for 3 weeks. So if you feel that every sprint you are not delivering what you committed for, then just take less requirements into the sprint. Make the sprint backlog thinner. Make the sprint backlog contains less items, but don't change the sprint length in the middle or in the end of the sprint. Capacity and velocity. Here I have not written that it is Scrum metrics. Actually, it is not Scrum metrics, it is Agile metrics. So capacity is a number of ideal hours available during next sprint. It is your forecast. It is all the hours that you can spend on development, on testing, on business analysis, minus holidays, minus vacations, minus some Scrum meetings. So it is clear, it is ideal hours, perfect hours, so-called perfect hours available for you. And velocity. Velocity is your experienced number. It is a number of story points or some other items that you're using for your project for relative estimation, completed during previous sprint or completed better during several previous sprints. So capacity is a look forward, is a look in future. How many hours are available, and velocity is a number of story points available for you. It's number of story points that was done during the previous sprints. For instance, during the previous sprints, during the one previous sprint, you developed 50 story points, during the other 60, and during the third one previous sprint, it was developed like 45. Probably the general number of story points developed by you during the sprint is somewhere nearly 50 story points. Question? Do you include testing team into development team as well, and do testers and developers are invited in stand-up meeting? Okay, the first part of the question, do you include testing team into development team as well? Yes, it is included, and it is providing estimations also together with the development team. And do testers and developers are invited in stand-up meeting? Yes, testers and developers is the one team. It is the one team, it is the development team, and all meetings that are attended by developers should be attended by the testers, because the testers should know how to test the code that developers were developed. So it is important for testers to understand what was developed. And from my experience, I can say that it is better and it is more effective when QA team works all together with development team and sees and knows what development team is doing. Yes, they should present on stand-up. The stand-up meeting can be skipped by Scrum Master and can be skipped by Product Owner, but stand-ups should be, all the development team should present on daily stand-up. The Scrum Master should only make sure that the development team is presenting on daily stand-up, but Scrum Master can skip the daily stand-up. But then someone else should write down the impediments and transfer it to Scrum Master to resolve. So back to metrics, it is good to use both velocity and capacity. For instance, from your previous experience, you know that every sprint you are delivering 50 story points. And you know that you usually have a capacity of 100 hours. But then May holidays came, or New Year holidays came, and your capacity has reduced. Half of the team is going to vacations, or half of the team is going to holidays. Then you should reduce your velocity correspondingly. So your capacity has reduced, it become like 50 hours, then your velocity reduce and become 25 story points. And you can have the items accordingly. One more question. What is a story point? I will write the answer to this question in email. It is a very big topic. Actually, every of these artifacts, every of these events can be discussed within 1 hour or 4 hours or even 2 days workshop, like it is done, for instance, for Retrospective. And it is just on our view. I'm going to make a webinar on Agile metrics, so probably I will have it in September and October. 3 top questions that I'm usually asked about Scrum. Why do we need Scrum? Sometimes people invite a coach to the project to make an Agile transformation, to set up Scrum, and then ask him, why do we need a Scrum? So how I answer this question? If you need to plan your requirements, if you need to refine your requirements, if you need to synchronize on daily basis about your work, if you care about to show your work results to someone who needs these work results, and if you would like to inspect and adapt your process, you need Scrum. So if you would like to have also in the project such roles like a person who knows the business value of your doing, the people who are implementing this value, and the person who is assisting both the product owner and development team, probably you need Scrum. If you need on your Scrum a list of requirements for the project, a list of requirements for iteration, a ready-made product to show to people who are going to use it, then you need Scrum. So if you need these artifacts, if you need these events, and if you need these roles, then you need Scrum. If you don't, then you don't need Scrum. Does Scrum work? Scrum is a toolkit, is an instrument. It's like a hammer or a spoon or like a needle. It's just a set of instruments. So it depends how you use Scrum. Because some people just don't use half of these events or don't use artifacts, Scrum artifacts, and then saying the Scrum doesn't work for us. But hey guys, you don't using Scrum. Probably you're using something else and it doesn't work for you and you should do something with it. Because in order to use Scrum, you should have these Scrum artifacts, you should have these Scrum roles, and you should have these Scrum events. And then you can inspect and adapt your process. Question? If by 2 weeks you have nothing increment, you don't have increment, that what to show? Actually, you should cancel the sprint if you see that. The issue is that you should understood that you will not be able to get something to show not at the end of the 2 weeks, but somewhere in the middle of the sprint, because you should synchronize on daily basis and seeing what is your pace, what will be delivered. Probably you should do the scoping. Probably you should remove all user stories except one user story and deliver only one user story. But if you happen that you don't have anything to show by 2 weeks, the sprint is cancelled, all user stories are coming back to product backlog. During retrospective, you are discussing why this situation happened, and then you start a new sprint. There is no strategy about it, but you should lessons learned. But you should make lessons learned. Does Scrum work? Scrum as an instrument, it depends how you use it. If you're using it in the correct way, according to Scrum Guide, and you don't see any value in it, just start using some other process. But if you're not using it correctly, you can't say that the Scrum doesn't work. Do you believe in Scrum? Scrum is not a religion to believe in. Scrum is just an instruction how to do projects, how to deliver products. So it is not about beliefs. You just follow the instruction, follow some steps, set up the artifacts, set up the roles, set up the events, and follow it. No belief is necessary in Scrum in order that Scrum works for you well. Questions. We have 5 minutes left. If you have questions, please write it down. I will go further. If you would like to know more about Scrum, please read Scrum Guide. Here is the link to Scrum Guide. It is a Scrum book. It is a Scrum Bible. There are lots of details, but still it is not very big. It contains probably 16 pages, so it is quite easy to read. A question? How one can make sure story points are reassigned linearly? Not sure that I understand the question. I'll write to you the email and we will discuss it in email. So way forward, Scrum Guide. So download Scrum Guide or read it online. Here is the table of content of Scrum Guide. When you read the Scrum Guide, how to test itself, to make sure that you really read this Scrum Guide. Go to Scrum Open Assessments and try to pass the assessment. I recommend you this one, the Scrum Open. This assessment is a background for assessments for professional Scrum Master training assessment. So do this assessment, try to pass it. If you pass it, it makes that you know Scrum quite well. But try to pass it from the first time, because when you try to pass it from the second or third time, the questions start repeating and you will see probably the right answers, so try to pass it from the first time. There is also a lighter version of it, Scrum Practitioner, and there is also a version for developer. It is free, you need just to register on Scrum.org and try to pass its assessment. If you would like to get deeper understanding in Scrum and Agile, and if you're a Luxoft employee, I invite you to Scrum Master training. You can register in Integer to this training. It is 2 days training, so you will get the same information, but within 2 days with lots of details and examples and some practical exercises. Also, I recommend you to go to Agile Fundamentals if you already know Scrum well, but you would like to find out more about Agile practices apart from Scrum. So here there are lots of practices apart from Scrum. So you can go to Agile Fundamentals, again register in Integer. If you are Luxoft employee, if you are not Luxoft employee, just write me email and we will see how we can organize it for your team, for your company. We have open trainings for people to come in Ukraine and in Russia. So if you're not from Luxoft, just drop me email and I'll discuss with you the possibility to participate in these trainings. But if you're a Luxoft employee, you have a great possibility to get certified for Scrum Master or to get certified as Agile Specialist. Also, I encourage you, if you're again from Luxoft, to invite a coach for your team for 1 hour to explain Scrum. If you see that you're doing something wrong, or you would like to set up Scrum processes on your project, or you would like to set up just part of Scrum, for instance, you need just retrospective of Scrum or planning of Scrum, invite a coach, drop me a line, but please make sure that your management doesn't mind, that your team doesn't mind coaching. So drop me a line and I or some of my colleagues can come to your place, can come to your location and make a workshop, make a lecture around Scrum. A question? If we have no sprint, can it be Scrum? No, it is not Scrum, it's some other technique. So in order to have Scrum, once again, you should have all these components in place. There is no bet that you have your own process. If you are working well in your process, if your customer is satisfied and happy, and team members work well within your custom framework, that is fine to have it. Just don't call it Scrum. What other popular techniques are used except of Scrum? So Scrum again, Scrum is a set of techniques. So Scrum is a set of techniques. And also you can see here lots of techniques that are not Scrum. For instance, value-based documentation, for instance, pair programming, by the way, it is not Scrum technique, but it is Agile technique. So here you will get this presentation, and here you can see like simple design, end-of-end iteration, heads-up UART, automated functional tests. It is not Scrum. So here there are lots of practices that are not Scrum, but it is Agile. Are you planning to continue webinars dedicated to Agile Scrum practices? Yes, we have. Let me go back to these trainings. So there is a training, Agile Fundamentals. What we are going to do in Agile practice, we are going to split half of these trainings with theoretical materials into blocks, into chunks, and to provide it to you as webinars. We are doing this chunking right now, and probably the series of webinars will start somewhere in September, October. So you will get this in the webinars form. For instance, there will be a webinar, for instance, about retrospective, or only about product backlog, or only about estimation process. Yes, we're going to do it. Does the Scrum used for banking billing system development for faster development to customer is it main goal of Scrum? Faster delivering to customer, again, in a mail. To one question, and I have an interesting matrix for you to send about what projects can be Scrum used for. So I would like to send you this matrix. How can I get this presentation? Great question. This presentation will be sent to you within probably 10-15 days, together with the recording. All the people who were registered for this webinar will get the recording of this webinar and the presentation of this webinar. So we are running out of time. Thank you for coming, and I will be happy to see you on our next webinars. You can continue to write me some questions. I will keep the session for 5 minutes longer. Then I will take these questions and also answer these questions to you in emails. So please write your questions and I will answer it to you. Thank you a lot for participation. Have a good day. Goodbye.